afraid to review a movie anymore. I'd done it already.
Hi, I'm Matt Whitman from the 10-Minute Bible Hour. And I saw a movie recently that really stuck with me called The Revenant. It's directed by a guy named Alejandro Iñárritu. Pretty sure on that pronunciating. It was good. One of those movies that I think is going to be talked about for a really long time. And in order to do the review right, I think I need to tell you a little bit of the story setup, but I mean a little bit. So if you don't want any of this, you can just go to the timestamp I'm going to put down here and you can skip it. So the whole thing is set in the old American West, but not like cowboys and Indians, Old West, like fur trappers kind of Old West. And so there's this group of fur traders that is accompanied by a scout named Hugh Glass, played by Leonardo DiCaprio, who pretty much crushed it and one of these days is going to win an Oscar. The other guy that's in the company that's super famous is Tom Hardy, who occasionally slips into Bane voice, but otherwise sounds completely different than you've ever heard him. Part of the reason that their performances are so intense is because the story is so intense. The whole thing is predicated on how wild the West was and how dangerous everything was. So their company gets disrupted by an Indian raid. They have to get on the run big time. And in the process of that, Glass gets mauled by a bear in one of the, I was gonna say grisliest, and then it occurred to me, I wasn't doing that on purpose, I'm sorry. In one of the most gruesome nature scenes I've ever seen. And after this mauling, people assume that Glass is pretty much incapable of making the rest of the trip. So, it doesn't sound quite as mean as it plays out in the story, but they leave him for dead. And that's how the story moves. So, if you can picture how intense that subject matter is, then you can picture what kind of performances it would take to really sell that thing, especially when you come to understand that this movie is made up of one giant uninterrupted singular shot after another. I got about 3 or 4 minutes into the thing and I started feeling like this doesn't feel like a movie. It feels like a video game, like a Call of Duty campaign or something. And I think the reason that it felt like that was because the camera never stops. There are no cut points. There's no jumpy action. Everything really happens in front of your eyes. And in a way, it kind of sets a new standard for what action has to be believable. So this single shot technique persists throughout, which means the performances just had to be off the charts good, because if you screw it up, you just ruined, 20 minutes of everybody's time. But they keep on delivering, and as the show goes along, you realize that what you are encountering is a lot more than just a story about somebody battling against nature and evil people doing mean things. That what you're dealing with is, in my opinion, what a Christian movie ought to look like. There are really pronounced Christian themes throughout. I know that, at least off the top of your head, you don't associate revenge as a Christian theme, but God has stuff to say about revenge. And this movie actually specifically quotes stuff that God has to say about revenge. Most notably that vengeance belongs to God, and that theme runs throughout the whole show. It's what motivates the main character to drag himself out of an early grave, to go and track down the people who did bad things, and to bring himself out of an impossible situation to give us one of the great all-time survival stories. In addition to this theme of revenge, which really carries the main character through the whole character arc and is completed in a brutal fight scene at the end with his rival, you also have the theme of innocence. You're not in a mean, gritty, gold mining Old West. You're in a pristine Eden of an Old West. And you see the evil of man slowly encroach on all of this. And that theme of evil tarnishing innocence is really pronounced throughout in some very graphic and unsettling ways. There's almost an angel character who comes in the form of a Native American who at one point shows up at just the right moment to help Hugh Glass out of an impossible situation. And what happens to this character is one of the low points of the movie, and it's supposed to cause the viewer to feel like man truly is corrupt. They're going to take this beautiful thing and they're going to corrupt it with their capacity for wickedness and selfishness. But additionally, there's this theme of providence, because There's deliverance that keeps coming at the strangest times. At one point, I don't want to ruin it, one character is riding toward a dangerous precipice and finds himself again left for dead, but just what he needs to be able to survive the encounter is manifest at just the right moment. And so you get the impression that someone is looking out for Hugh Glass, that someone is navigating the story for him, which leads to the final Christian theme that you see throughout, which is resurrection or redemption. You have two scenes where the main character literally drags himself out of what looks like death into new life. Once coming from the grave back to life, and once in a really pretty gross, uncomfortable scene that simulates birth, coming back to life as a character reborn. And so when stuff like that happens in a movie, I feel like that's what I want in terms of being forced to think about my faith, who I am as a human if you strip away all of the technology and all of the other stuff. Tiny bit winded, it's snowy. And in some, when I contrast this to a movie that is overtly Christian, made by an overtly Christian studio, I feel like those come off more like sermons disguised as films, where they control and contrive everything to make God look just the way they want him to, and then he looks good and everybody feels good. It's more of a hype movie for people who are already Christians. But if you want to see a show as a Christian that will push you, that will make you uncomfortable, that will make you think about theological realities like the depravity of human nature, the beauty of redemption, life, death, resurrection, this is a great film to check out. It's not overt, it's not easy to watch, but it's remarkable in the way that it's shot, in the way that it's acted, and in the themes that are present. I think you're gonna love it, and I think I need to sit down and take a breather. I'm Matt, this is the 10-Minute Bible Hour. Check out The Revenant, it's good. But seriously, you know what's hard? Filming a whole bunch of things happening in the woods where you just walk around with the camera in just one take. Think about that.
Please, don't make me walk anymore. I can't do it with my arm. Does that give me an Oscar?
Yeah. Thanks, gang. Nice job.